So now for us to kill each other makes us be more masculine, you know. And the more masculine we are, the more we can kill off each other. The more drugs we can do, the bigger is the thug life, the more destructive we are. A liberated black woman is a woman who somehow can out sleep, who can out sexually seduce you in terms of what she's able to do. The way our children, we consider to be raising our children, is to be able to let them become materialistically affluent without, you know, giving them more alienation from what the family really represents in terms of trying to shift the paradigm. So we've taken on the images from the broader society. That's where we are. The idea is that we still are suffering from a failure to understand that mental health is to be able to work towards the effective mastery of your own survival and continuity. And when you lose that ability, when someone else is defining what success means, when you're defining yourself by someone else's standards that ultimately lead to your own destruction, then the ultimate outcome is what we are seeing.
Okay. So, I mean, how does spirituality fit into this, for example, or the absence of it?
The essential part of the African idea is that we are spiritual creatures, you see, that we are not the automobiles we drive, that we are not our grills, that we are not our Nikes, that we are not the outfits we have. We are not the affluent material things that have come to be the redefinition of what the human being is. So we are not the consumers that we are. And the essential part of the Afrocentric paradigm is to somehow reinstate a consciousness that we are spiritual creatures. That does not mean we go to this church or to this mosque. It does not mean that we somehow sing out of this hymnal, or we recite prayers in this particular language, or that we somehow claim a particular religious adherence. But it is in fact a more essential understanding that what Africans did in terms of their definition of humanity was to foster a consciousness of us as spiritual creatures with a spiritual responsibility. In that spiritual responsibility is a moral code that fosters life in the highest form, that fosters survival in the highest form, that gives control over the material by inner mastery. What has instead come to be the case is that success is hedonism, the loss of control, the breakdown of connectedness, the building of individuality and separateness rather than the building of community. And we are suffering from being exposed still to the alien paradigm that destroys our humanity in the true sense of what it means to be human.
Wow. That's heavy. When we think about the manifestations of that in our everyday lives.
Yeah. That's the gangs, that's the drugs,
Yeah.
everything that is destroying us. Yeah, all the things that are destroying us are a consequence of having a faulty definition of what it means to be human, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be successful, what it means to be tough. All of those images are images that are anti-human.
I mean, the most likely way for a black man to die in this country is through suicide.
Exactly. Suicide.
Yeah.
The U.S. is homicide.
Yes.
And secondly is suicide.
Yes.
Interesting.
And we can see from the trends in this country
Interesting.
that the homicide is increasing.
Interesting.
And the rates are doubling year on year.
Interesting.
So if the trends continue, it will at some point in time parallel the suicide rate. So literally physically killing oneself and then metaphorically, or from a genetic standpoint, killing oneself and killing one's brother.
It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you understand that I am because we are,
Yes.
suicide, homicide is suicide.
Suicide.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What do we do?
It's overwhelming. That's exactly it. What do we do? I mean, you were here in the UK in 2008 for the Redefining Sanity Conference, which is our redoubling of effort
Right.
to address exactly the things that we've been talking about
Right.
today. And the conference was a conference, and
Yes.
yet more than that, it was setting the tone,
Right.
drawing a line and affirming the vision for the next 5 years in terms of what it is we seek to achieve. One key point being the establishment of an organization such as the one you've been describing, the Black Association of Black Psychologists, and even more importantly, the training, the seat of learning, and needed to create, to produce individuals that have a competence and understanding of black psychology, and as a result are able to deliver that in this country. Well, what are your observations? It's a two-part question. What is it we need to do? I know you've touched on that in part. And what are your observations in relation to where we're at in the UK?
My perception is that, as has been the case, for the last 30 years, is that we are on the same trend, with the UK moving just a little bit behind where we are in the USA. And so the destructive trends that are there are also infecting here. But simultaneously, the regeneration of the constructive trends are gradually coming in as well. So this conference, I think, represents the healthy redawning of the real agenda that we must take on. And that agenda for the contemporary struggle, the contemporary struggle is a continuation of the old struggle.
Yes.
And that's to reclaim who we are, to reclaim our own identity by building our own institutions, by building our own scholarship, by building our own education, by re-socializing ourselves, and by creating images that will ensure our continuity, our perpetuation, and our health. And so redefining sanity in many ways sets the agenda. That's what we must begin to do. And when even though I think it was probably phrased in a limited way, how do we deal with the mental health system and make the mental health system somehow address our needs in a way that's fairly specific? But I think it also speaks on a more meta level, a metaphysical level of saying, how do we begin to understand who we are from our point of view and to take control of that definition? And where do we need to go with that? We need to proceed according to that agenda. That is, in fact, what is necessary if we're going to take our lives back. So the solution to all these issues, the homicide rates, the drug abuse, the family dissolution, the community dissolution, the economic deterioration, all those kinds of things have to do with being able to have a clear idea of who we are as African, i.e., spiritual creatures who are not the images that are being portrayed and constructed by those people who do not have our survival as their objective.